David Ben-Gurion speaking in Jerusalem.
Good evening. This is UNO in Hong Kong.
Good evening, Prime Minister Ben-Gurion. Good evening, UNO. This is Ed Murrow at Small World.
Welcome from Olin Matheson, where knowledge and experience gained in 6 major fields are brought together to make each product better for you. Squibb Pharmaceuticals, Winchester Western, Sporting Arms and Ammunition, Chemicals for Agriculture and Industry, Energy, High Energy Fuels and Commercial Explosives, Packaging, Cellophane and Paper Products, Metals, Aluminum and Brass. That's the active and fascinating world of Olin Matheson.
Now, here is Edward R. Murrow. Good evening. Tonight's Small World unites 2 statesmen and scholars who are also old friends. From Jerusalem, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. And from Burma, we are picking him up from Hong Kong, former Prime Minister UNO of Burma. Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, there's an open circuit to Hong Kong, if you would like to say shalom.
Shalom, Mr. UNO.
Shalom, Mr. Ben-Gurion.
Oh, you hear me?
Yes.
How are you?
Yes, thank you. I'm quite well.
How's your wife? Is she with you?
Oh, thank you very much. She is fine, too. How is Mrs. Ben-Gurion?
Oh, fine. Thanks. She remembers you. We all remember you.
Mr. Prime Minister, I visited your country in 1955. I remember still that I was taken to a site which your government proposed to turn into a garden. At that time, it was...
What?
At that time, the government proposed to turn it into a garden. It was only full of rocks. No, not even art. They promised that if I come back again to Israel after 3 years, it will be turned into a garden. Has it been turned into a garden?
Well, not as fully as I expected. You see, we always wish and hope for more than we human beings can accomplish.
Yes.
But it's being turned into a garden, and I wish you to come again and to see the trees where there was never a tree since the creation, and green patches, and horses breeding, and sheep, and young girls and young children are living there.
I have heard the Prime Minister say that in Israel, in order to be a realist, one must believe in miracles. Is that true in Burma, UNO?
Not yet quite. In Israel, there are plenty of men who can do wonders, who can do miracles. And I've seen some of the miraculous things they had done themselves. Because they have turned deserts into gardens. They have turned the rocks into, oases and things like that. So, to me, when the Israelis said that they would do certain things, I believed.
Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, did you know that our friend UNO once translated Dale Carnegie into Burmese?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid not.
Well, sir, he was a proficient salesman and teacher of public speaking. And he
Salesman. I was never a salesman, you see.
The man who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People.
What?
This is one of the most popular books in the whole world.
It cannot be done by books. It can be done only by heart. One cannot learn that. He must have it in his soul.
UNO translated that book, you know.
Into Burmese?
Into Burmese, yes.
I see. And did you make many friends by that?
Yes, it is still very popular in our country.
Well, in How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie and UNO, it is stated that the sweetest word in any man's language is his own name. And yet, UNO, in a recent speech, you said that part of the world's troubles and ills came from the repeated use of the word I.
According to Buddhism, this is the very source of all the troubles. So if we want to get rid of all these troubles, first of all, we must get rid of this I consciousness, which is called in Buddhism, Sakaya Deity.
Well, UNO, what do you think we should do in order to get rid of this I consciousness?
Meditate. Meditation is the only way by which we can get rid of that I. That's why When I visited Israel a few years ago, I had invited the Prime Minister to come over to Rangoon and have a little bit of meditation. He has accepted it.
But meditation, dear Unu, is not enough. Meditation is merely a personal thing. Every one of us must do something for the world, for humanity. And this cannot be done by meditation alone.
I quite agree. But if you want to get rid of that I, the source of all troubles, we must do it. It is the only way.
The I is not so bad in itself. The question is whether it's a selfish I or a human I.
The same. It is the same.
You see, our God began his 10 commandments with the word I am your God.
Oh, I see. I don't know about that. There is no such thing as God in Buddhism.
Well, except for this basic difference, I believe Prime Minister Ben-Gurion believes that there are great similarities between Judaism and Buddhism. For example, the 10 Commandments and the basic principles of Buddhism are roughly the same, aren't they?
No, we have not only 10 principles, there are 4 groups of commandments for lay Buddhists and 1 group for the priests. In the first group, there are 5 commandments. In the second, 8. The third, 9. And the fourth, 10 commandments. The 5 commandments are quite essential for all the lay Buddhists. These are: you must not kill, you must not steal, you must not commit adultery, you must not tell lies, you must not drink intoxicated liquor. It is quite essential for every lay Buddhist to observe the first group of 5 commandments. He cannot break any one of them. For the priests, there are 227. So I don't think you will be very much interested in listening to the 227 commandments or rules of Dinia for the priests.
We have generally 613 commandments. But one of our great sages said, you can put them all into one main commandment, which means you shall love your fellow man like yourself. That is the main thing. That was said by our greatest sage, which was called Rabbi Akiva.
Well, Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, it seems to me that the basic commandments outlined by UNO are not terribly different from those that apply to Judaism, except in the field of abstention. Isn't that right?
Part of them are just the same. There are at least 5 commandments in our Torah which are the same as the commandments of the Buddha. But we have in addition to them a commandment because the Buddha originally didn't say a thing about God, whether there is a God or
No
there
God.
is not a God.
No God.
He didn't deny it, but he didn't affirm the existence of a God. But the first commandment in the Jewish Torah is that there is one single God who is the creator of everything and the embodiment of justice and love.
There is no, yes. There is no such thing as God in Buddhism.
So the essence of the difference is that Judaism affirms the existence of God and
Yes.
Buddhism denies it. Is that right?
Denied it, yes.
Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, would you agree with that?
Well, to a certain degree, because there are different schools in Buddhism. The original Buddhism really, one can be said that there was no talk about God. And even they denied that there is such a thing as Tao. There is a permanent thing. Because Buddha said that everything is changing. Man is changing, nature is changing, nothing is permanent. And when everything is impermanent, of course there is no God. But there were later schools which said that Buddha did not deny, although he didn't affirm the existence of God.
We don't accept that school of Buddhism which accepts God. Because if everything is transient and impermanent, there can be no exception to it. Even the God himself cannot be an exception to this rule.
But Judaism began by the belief that there is a creator, although there are different views. And there are some who held the view that the Creator and the creation is one thing, which in a way resembles the Indian philosophy. It's a pantheistic view, but this was not shared by all Jewish sages.
We don't believe in creation.
Prime Minister Ben-Gurion,
Yes?
when we were with you at your kibbutz several years ago, you spoke at length about Judaism and Buddhism, and you pointed out the similarities between the two. But I have the feeling that UNU does not entirely agree with you.
It is similar and different. It's similar in that respect that Buddhism wants people to live in peace, love each other, help each other, and to draw away hatred.
Yes.
The best saying of the Buddha, as far as I know, is in the Dhammapada, where he says that enmity doesn't cease by enmity,
Yes. Yes.
only by love. And this is almost the same what he said in our Torah, that you should love your fellow men like yourself. That is the similarity. But there is also a difference. There is a great deal of pessimism in Buddhism. The Buddha said that life is suffering and misery and pain and sorrow. While it is true that there is misery and suffering in life, but we believe there is also joy and creativeness in life, and not merely misery. That's the difference.
Buddhism is not pessimistic, it is optimistic. We put special emphasis not on suffering, but getting out of the suffering. That is that is the thing on which we put special emphasis. Because suffering is inevitable, but we must not rest content, you see, with what we see in front of us, that is suffering. We must try our level best to get out of it. Buddhism teaches us the way to get out of that suffering.
We believe in life. We believe that man can make life a good and enjoyable and creative thing. And it is not necessary to renounce life and to become a monk.
Not necessary for all people. No, not all for all people. Because in Burma, where we, you see, for a population of 20 million, there are about 100,000 monks or so. So it is not necessary for every people to retire and become a monk.
Well, Mr. Ben-Gurion and UNU, if we can keep these circuits up between Jerusalem and Hong Kong for the next minute, we will continue this conversation between you two eminent scholars. Immediately after a word from our sponsor.
Now back to Small World and Edward R. Murrow.
UNU, recently in a speech on Buddhism, you said that in this hydrogen age with all its dangers, the only hope of saving the world was religion. Is that right?
As I had been repeatedly saying, that if we meditate, we will get rid of that I. And not only that, when we reach the first stage, we cannot kill. The war means killing. If we cannot kill, there will be no war at all. So in this way, religion can prevent the war from taking place.
Walter, are you suggesting that if everyone became a Buddhist, there would be no war?
If I'm to say frankly, yes, I would suggest this. If it would not insult other religionists.
Well, I will tell you, my friend Ono, there is something which the Buddha said, that our religion said the same thing.
Yes.
To be free of evil things, one must get rid of selfish cravings.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
main thing is love of man. The Dhammapada said that if a man is living 100 years and he sacrifices all the time elephants and horses, and the other man, for one moment, has a pure love for man, it's more important than all the sacrifices. This is common to our prophets and to the Buddha.
The wars are fought because either one side or the other of the participants in the war is selfish. If the people are not selfish, there will be no occasion for wars. Do you agree with me?
Well, I believe that the real danger to the present world is not so much war. I don't think that there is a madman in any great state which is going to make war. The real problem of our present world is the poverty of many peoples in many parts of the world and the abundance in other parts of the world. We must make all the people live more on the same level and have the same culture, the same health, and the same development.
Quite right,
And this
quite
can
right.
be done by the rich, cultured, developed peoples in Europe and in America. We, this small country, is ready to get its modest help as far as possible. But of course, this tiny country cannot do enough. It depends largely on the big, rich peoples of the New World and of Europe to give more help, but selfless help, without asking anything for it, for the peoples in Asia and Africa. I think this is the biggest task of our time.
Yes, we need quite a lot of help, not only money, but also in the form of technical know-how. For instance, countries like Burma and India haven't got enough technicians to develop their countries. So if we can get technicians who know the job and who are quite willing to come over to these countries to give their assistance selflessly, I think it will be a very good idea.
And to this I want to add that it is necessary not only to give material help, but we need a better society where there will be more freedom, more equality, and more brotherhood. And the life in many countries which are very rich is empty of spiritual content. And men cannot live on bread alone. We need ideals. We need a purpose in life. And this is the thing which the East, Israel, India, and other countries can perhaps provide for the West. This is why we consider we are in a way a bridge between the East and the West.
Well, Israel, of course, is supplying technical assistance, isn't it, all the way from Ghana to Burma?
Yes,
Yes, we have some Israeli technicians in Burma.
Who knew? Have the Israeli technicians been of very much help to you?
Yes, they are very popular in Burma.
Well, gentlemen, do you not think it possible that many small nations are spending too much money on military affairs and too little on economic and cultural matters?
As far as Burma is concerned, I don't think we are relying more on military matters. We are concentrating more on economic matters. Regarding the military matters, we don't need to have a big army because we don't have aggressive intentions. And if war breaks out between our country and some other countries, there will be the United Nations to come to our help. That is why we joined the United Nations.
but unfortunately, the powerlessness of UN and the defiance of our neighbors to the Charter of the UN makes it incumbent upon us to spend lots of money for defense. Otherwise, we will be destroyed. You see, if UN will become a real thing and the Charter will be absorbed by all the people, then I hope all the means which we are spending on security, we will spend on education and elevating the immigrants which are coming to our country from all parts of the world. Well, if I were in the position, let me say, of Liberia or of Ghana, I wouldn't spend a penny of military methods.
But fortunately or otherwise, we are in a different position, as you know, Mr. Morrow, because with India, we have best of relations. With China, too, we cannot say the relations between China and Burma are bad. But if some such big powers like to quarrel with us, even if we have a big army, that big army will not be good enough to fight them back. So our only hope is the United Nations. But I entirely agree with Mr. Ben-Gurion that the United Nations at the present moment is not as effective as we had expected it to be. But we should not despair. In course of time, things will be all right.
We have only a small army, and we had to stand against invading armies of 6 nations. And we defeated them only because our people are fighting material. They are spiritually superior to the others. And we rely on the supremacy of spirit, even in the army. And we think that the supremacy of spirit should be the foundation of the education of people, not only in the army.
We who are in a different position can't blame Israeli for having a strong army. They are in a different position. So to them, the survival is the biggest thing. Economic rehabilitation and amelioration of the toiling masses and things like that come afterwards.
Well, I wouldn't agree to that formulation. While we need an army, we are spending a great deal of money on that. But the first thing here in Israel is to integrate the immigrants and to rebuild the desert and to educate our people. This is our main effort.
Well, gentlemen, there are certain similarities in your careers, at least to the extent that both of you, at the height of your political power, voluntarily stepped down. Ben-Gurion to go to the desert and raise sheep, and UNO to go to a monastery and contemplate. How could you afford to do that, and how could your countries afford to let you do it?
I did step out in 1956. You can say it is mainly for contemplation. At that time, my people didn't want me to go, but I've got to go because I'm replying to the inner arch. And when the people understood that I did so as in response to the inner arch, they were not in my way. They simply let me go.
What I came originally to do in this country, what? You see, our belief is that a people must live on its own work. And a people can rebuild its country in its own only by its own hard work. And to go to work, especially on the land, was the ideal which brought me some 53 years ago to this country. And I was sorry that I had to give it up for public activities. And the first opportunity which I have seen that I can safely leave government in the hands of my friends, I went back to do the things which I love to do, and I'm happy that I did it. And I hope I will be able to do it again next year or sometime, either when I will leave or they will throw me out of the government, because it's bound to come sometime.
I had never wanted to be in the government service. That's why it is very easy for me to step out. But I had to step into the government because our late leader, Bojuk Aung San, was assassinated. And all my friends wanted me to get in. And I got in only after I got the promise from them that I would be allowed to get out after 6 months. But unfortunately, after 3 months, we had general insurrection in Burma, so I couldn't get out.
Have you ever worried about the possibility of assassination?
I don't. Because, according to Buddhism, if I have ill luck, and if I don't do anything about it, nothing on earth can prevent me from being assassinated. But Buddhism, being an optimistic religion, teaches us how to combat that ill luck. And if I can sufficiently do something to combat that ill luck, there would be nothing on earth that can assassinate me.
Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, has it ever bothered you?
No, never. Although it may happen, anything may happen, but this country is an exception in all of the Middle East. Here we can change the government by very peaceful means.
Well, perhaps the election you're about to have in Israel will serve as an example for the rest of the Middle East. Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, I can tell that you're enjoying talking with UNO over this great distance. With whom else would you like to talk on a program of this kind?
Later on, with any decent fellow.
With any decent fellow?
Yes, who cares for peace and for the welfare of humanity.
Would you be willing to have this type of conversation with Nasser, for example?
Well, you must ask him first. because I would do it. If he was ready to talk peace, then yes.
Unu, if we should arrange a conversation between Prime Minister Ben-Gurion and President Nasser, would you be willing to sit in my place as the moderator?
Moderator? Yes. If both of them agree, if both of them will agree, I don't mind.
Well, gentlemen, we have reached the end of this conversation. Would you care to say good night to each other?
Good night, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good night. I hope we will see each other sometime.
I should very much like to. I should very much
And
like
give
to.
my regards to your wife and on behalf of my wife, too.
Yes, give my regards to Mrs. Ben-Gurion, too.
Thank you very much.
Yes, give my salams to the people of Israel, will you?
And I wish your people prosperity and peace.
Yes. Salam.
Shalom. Oh, bravo.
Shalom, shalom. Thank you very much, and good night and good luck. Next week's guests in just a moment.